All right, guys, we got an awesome guest today. I'm going back to the UFC roots here, dipping in with my friend, Mr. Jon Anik, going to call a huge fight on Saturday. What is up, John? Thank you so much for joining me.
Maddie, it's great to see you, man. I mean, you can lean on that UFC Rolodex anytime you need to. So, when the call comes in, I'm always taking your call, buddy. It's good to see you.
No, I appreciate that. And, it's a fun time to talk to you because, you're plugged in all over the place, man. Like if anybody follows your Twitter feed, it's a lot of UFC, it's a lot of fighting, but, you sprinkle in a lot of different sports, and one in particular, NFL football. You're a big New England Patriots fan. And for Bills fans watching the podcast, I wanted to get you on from that perspective just to talk about what it's like in this new world, 5-6 games in and second place in the division.
Well, right. It's interesting. And I will say, as a Boston sports fan, and I hope this doesn't come across in any arrogant way, but I have softened a little bit, right? I sit here talking to you. I am as big an NFL fan, I think, at times as I am a Patriots fan. And because our teams for so long were the laughing stocks of these pro sports leagues, right? Dude, when I used to go to Schaefer Stadium and Sullivan Stadium and Foxborough Stadium, the Patriots were the laughing stock of the NFL. My record in Foxborough as a fan is probably 50 games below 500. So now that our teams have experienced some winning, I hope my fellow Patriots fans don't hear this part, but I would love to see Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills break through. I don't need them to win the Super Bowl necessarily, but I am rooting, generally speaking, for starved fan bases in my elder years more than I ever thought I would. So I'm excited to see what Josh Allen can do. Obviously, I think Patriots fans were not blind to the fact that this year was going to be challenging. And I think once the Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower defection started to happen in the early COVID-19 days, it started to feel like the team was kind of thinning out, and it was going to be really hard defensively to be as good as they were last year. And you knew probably they were going to take a step back offensively. So it has not been a good year. I am sitting on a future ticket for the Miami Dolphins at 11-1 to win the AFC East. But I think when all is said and done, it is going to be your Buffalo Bills.
That is a great ticket. And it's something that, we talked about it a lot in the offseason. I think people were sleeping on, not only the talent that Miami's put together, but the culture that they're starting to build there. Brian Flores, I feel like he's going to be one of those lottery tickets, if you will, that comes out of the Patriots organization and builds, his own version of, a winning culture. And I don't want to call it dynasty, but sustained success. And I think everything they're doing right now, even down to this Ryan Fitzpatrick thing, which is, as a Bills fan before I started covering the team, going back to my Ryan Fitzpatrick days, I love Fitz magic, man. Like that, you just root for that guy. And to see what played out in the last couple of days, it's a little bit gut wrenching as a person, from a human standpoint, but the way they've done it, let him kind of mentor the young 5th overall draft pick in Tua Tagovailoa, and the way they're kind of transitioning when things are good. It's interesting. I think that they're doing a kind of a good job of it.
I think so too. And I'm all in on Brian Flores for sure. I was actually working for the Sporting News Radio affiliate in Boston when we had the rights to Harvard football when Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. So I share that love for Fitzpatrick, and I do feel bad for him in this situation. But I think you set up Brian Flores well. He's certainly a leader of men, certainly a guy that these players are going to get behind. And this isn't like coaching 12 guys, 15 guys in the NBA. You're trying to get 45 guys on game day, adult men, to buy into every damn word out of your mouth. And that has really been Belichick's key to success, that even guys like Christian Fourier back in the day, they don't like Belichick, but they'll take a bullet for the guy. They'll run through a wall for the guy. And the fact that Flores seems so convicted in this decision, when the football fan in me thinks, ooh, I don't know, I'm glad Tua got a few reps, but Fitzpatrick is starting to turn the corner with that offense. I like the aggressiveness with which he made this move. I feel for Fitzmagic, obviously, but I'm excited to see Tua. And, no one's talking about this as the AFC least anymore, that's for sure. And, the Patriots eventually are going to rebuild, and the Jets are a lost cause, but it's a 3-team race right now. I think it'll thin out, and I don't think the Pats are going to be a part of it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that before we transition to 254. Cam Newton, there was a lot said about when he signed in. I think that marriage made the most sense with the options that were out there. One thing that I mentioned was, man, he doesn't got a lot of runway here to get ready for the season. I mean, no preseason games, like, to kind of learn an offense, which he is a brilliant football mind. So I didn't think it was going to have trouble, but just the lack of repetitions. Sean McDermott talked about losing 500 plus in the spring. Just imagine that with a new quarterback and a new offense that just hit the ground running. I think this offense, as much as it's struggling right now with Cam Newton, it could be a completely different story late November, early December. They just got to kind of stay in the race, if you will.
Yeah, you got to tread water. And again, I think you set it up well. And New England historically has finished stronger than it has started. So certainly, I think that it stands to reason that this offense could bear fruit. I think there's a lot of film over the last couple of weeks, particularly the Broncos game, for Cam Newton and Belichick and Josh McDaniels to ingest and realize that they got to make some change. Cam looked like he was in quicksand, taking way too many sacks. He just looked to be a step slow against Denver. But the whole playbook opens up when you have a guy who can make a play with his feet. And that's why I'm sure Bills fans get all excited when you have a guy like Josh Allen who can make plays and be mobile and do a lot of different things. Tom Brady's the greatest of all time, but that doesn't mean he is without limitations. So the Patriots fan in me that has seen a pocket passer who's immobile for 20 years, I was so excited to see Cam Newton, don that Patriots jersey. And there have been some speed bumps, but I believe in Cam. I really do. I think if he can't get back to the MVP level, he can get close. But I do think last week was a regression relative to what he had done leading up to that game.
Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to defend the title once again. And this one is a banger. It's so funny. I go back to his fight against Conor, and that was the first big Conor fight that I was not with the UFC for. So watching it from Buffalo, New York on the big screen, while a fun time, it just didn't feel the same as, just being in that arena, experiencing those moments. There's nothing like it. I still maintain it. I've been in NFL stadiums, NBA stadiums. It doesn't matter. But this fight in particular, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje. And Justin Gaethje, in a lot of ways, shocked the world last time out. I think most people thought that while he is a competitive guy, a really good guy, like one of the best in the world, Tony Ferguson was a guy that, that Khabib fight was always there. So now that we're here, what chances does Justin Gaethje have in this fight?
So he's about a plus 250, plus 270 underdog, depending on where you shop a price right now. And I think oftentimes when you don't have a blueprint for how to beat a guy, it becomes difficult. So Khabib Nurmagomedov has never lost. He's 28-0. So what is the blueprint? Well, there isn't one. So you have to find a guy who has outstanding defensive wrestling skills so that if he does get taken down or put on the fence, in theory, he can not only get up, but get up expeditiously. And obviously, you've got to have the striking advantage. So Justin Gaethje has those two things, but his takedown defense in mixed martial arts has gone largely untested. He's had to lean on it at times, but not in the way that he's going to, in theory, have to lean on it this weekend. But again, I'm a little bit of a broken record when it comes to Khabib, because what most fighters who have trained with him or fought him tell me is that he feels like a light heavyweight, which is 50 pounds north of this weight class, as you well know. And Dustin Poirier said going into his fight with Khabib, I feel like the hay's in the barn. I've done all the right work, but until I feel him in a mixed martial arts setting, I just don't know. And then he felt him up against the fence, and he didn't quit, but he submitted. And I just feel like for Gaethje, that's the great unknown. What does Khabib feel like once he is on top of you? But if any fighter has the conditioning and the confidence and the defensive wrestling chops from his collegiate wrestling days to make this an interesting fight for Khabib, it's Gaethje. I mean, I would turn it around on you and say, if you needed to pick one lightweight in the world to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov, and you can send anybody in there, I'm probably landing on Justin Gaethje with respect to Tony Ferguson. So we'll see what he can do with the opportunity. He's certainly not going to be intimidated by the wrestling or anything else that happens in that cage.
You tweeted out a picture, or I think I put it on Instagram about Justin Gaethje. You talked a lot this week, and as have other people, about, the mindset and just the experience. I mean, a lot of UFC fans, casual fans, still getting to know Justin Gaethje, right. A lot of his work done outside of the promotion. And so I think that a casual might look at that and be like, well, this guy's only been in here for a couple of years. He's going up against the best ever. But what do you think has prepared him for this moment, and just being in that third, fourth, fifth round with a guy when you might have to go deep back into the drawing board and figure out a different approach to sustaining against him?
It's a good question. I think the most useful part of the preparation and the lead up as far as his career is concerned were the back-to-back UFC losses to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. At that point in time, Justin Gaethje was 20-0. He had won a major title outside the UFC and had defended that belt 5 times. There was no denying his championship experience. If you wanted to knock his strength of schedule, you could. But then he came into the UFC and he lost 2 straight fights when he was 20-0. And that showed him that, you know what, I like being the most exciting fighter in the world, but I want to be the best too. And I'm no longer the best, and I need to fix that. So he went back to the drawing board with Trevor Whitman, who is as qualified a striking coach as we have in the game. And they made some changes, and they made a few defensive adjustments. I think Justin was having a little bit too much fun in there, and those really are his words, not mine. He feels like at times where he has let his guard down and let his focus down, that's when opponents have capitalized. So focus was really the buzzword coming out of Justin Gaethje in advance of this one. But I really do believe without those two losses, if he had been a 24-0 fighter fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov this weekend, I wouldn't give him nearly as good a chance as I do now.
People ask me all the time, like, my memories from the UFC and like what people were like, you know, behind the scenes, away from the camera. And whenever anybody has ever asked me about Jon Anik, I always tell them the story. And you probably won't even, you know, remember it, because I was very new at the company, but Dana always threw Halloween parties in Vegas. Like that was like a big, you know, yearly tradition at the headquarters.
Right.
And I remember one of your last ones, I believe you were still living in Vegas, but I'm not sure. But it was the first one where I had experienced, you were emceeing the Halloween party out in the, you know, on Sahara. And I'm like, this dude is, you know, one of the commentators for the UFC, like just, you know, elbow to elbow, the experience and like the, I don't know, just the down to earth nature of everybody inside the walls there is what I always try to express to people that ask me what it was like, because it didn't matter who you were on the list, you know, whether it was Daniel Cormier coming in for a Christmas party, everybody just kind of just vibes, just gets along.
Yeah, no, I think you put it well. And there's no doubt that this UFC live production team and the other departments, it's all a well-oiled machine. It's a tight-knit unit. We have spent, at least in 2020, most of us more times with these people than our families. But yeah, man, I mean, I grew up cutting my television teeth at ESPN, where you had to earn your stripes. Like I was putting my suit on in a toilet stall, putting makeup on my own face, right? So like I never liked the term on-air talent. You know, I've always sort of just considered myself one of the guys. And, you know, I've gotten a few breaks and have had some opportunities that I never thought would have been afforded me. But I really enjoy working for this company. You know, Dana White is obviously an easy guy to want to break through a wall for, not unlike Bill Belichick. So it's been a fun ride. You know, I miss living in Vegas and emceeing those Halloween costume contests. I miss your hits with Forrest Griffin, of course. But I think you've aligned with a pretty good NFL outfit, if I'm not mistaken. So you're doing pretty well.
No, it has definitely been fun. Before I let you get out of here, and I do miss Vegas and I do miss the UFC for sure. But to your point, it has been a great time these last 2 years. Let me know what else you're looking forward to on this event, because I mean, everybody remembers the big KO a couple weeks ago, and I tell people all the time, don't just tune in for the main event because you're going to miss something. What do you got kind of circled on your card here that you're really excited for?
So we do have one fighter on the prelims. She's 23 years old. Her name is Miranda Maverick. Her UFC debut was delayed because she had detached retinas in both eyes, and the Invicta medicals for her, Matt, did not pick it up when she went to make her UFC debut. The UFC medicals did. She has since had surgery, clean bill of health, and simultaneously, while Miranda Maverick is studying for her PhD and working as a teacher's assistant in Abu Dhabi, right, doing Zoom classes while cutting weight as we speak.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible. And here she is, born in 1997, making her UFC debut. And I think really it stands to reason that she could be a prospect worth keeping an eye on. She jumped out of the room during the fighter meeting. And then obviously Walt Harris, for me, this is the first time I have seen him since his daughter was murdered. And he's just in a really good emotional place right now that he wasn't in when he returned against Alistair Overeem. I just think it was all too much. And every time he would walk into a restaurant, he would see them running the feature on ESPN on his late daughter, Anaya. And it was just too much for one man to deal with. So I'm excited to see what Walt Harris now can do. He's heard from so many different parents who have lost children who are so inspired by the fact that he's just willing to make the walk and compete. So I think you're going to get a real inspired effort out of Walt Harris. And dude, co-main event, Robert Whittaker and Jared Cannonier is obviously the fight that jumps off the card for most people here in Abu Dhabi. But first time since UFC 190 in 2015 that we have at least 6 fights or more on a pay-per-view. So we don't have your boots on the ground, but I can assure you we are raring and ready to go.
Forrest, I texted him about 6 months ago, and I have this app because, social media is so important for what we do. It kind of tells me stats and different things. It also tells me when people unfollow me. And so Forrest unfollowed me. So I texted him, I said, "Are you kidding me? We went through wars together building that thing." And he's like, "Listen to me right now. I love you. I hate football. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to read about it." And he said, "You have a question, you text me, but I can't watch your things." And I said, "Fair enough. I respect that." And it's Forrest. You gotta remember who you're dealing with.
And I will say, in his defense, when you first set it up that way, I was surprised to hear that he had unfollowed you. But I've had conversations with him about football, and I don't understand how these guys either boycott the NFL. Ray Longo, who's on my podcast every week, he is not watching the NFL. I don't understand how you can just no longer be an NFL fan. Forrest Griffin grew up in the state of Georgia rooting for the Falcons, but yeah, he's just not into it anymore. And so much so that he would take your handsome face off of his timeline, man. I don't know.
Exactly. Who's a big Bills fan? Mark Henry. Ariel Hawani put me onto that. So we've started to connect, which we never did when I was in the UFC, but he's a huge Bills fan. He's rabid about it. So eventually I'm going to get him on the podcast. He's a little hesitant to show that side of him, but yeah, great stuff from Mark Henry.
The last time he cornered a UFC fighter on Fight Island, I believe it was, we were instructed to throw to him in the corner. And I said, all right, let's check in on the Buffalo Bills fan, Mark Henry, in the corner. So I brought it to broadcast, and he said now he's got the whole Bills Mafia behind him. So even the Patriots fan in me is not afraid to shout out Henry and the Bills when I get the opportunity.
Jon Anik, the man. You will find him on the broadcast, 2 p.m. stateside Eastern time this weekend, correct?
2 p.m. for the pay-per-view. You got it.
There it is. So we'll watch that a little. It'll be like an NFL Sunday. Have some late brunch. Get ready for the fights. We'll watch Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. My friend, thank you so much for joining me.
Anytime, my brother. Good to see you.